One of my favorite things about the cigar industry is the fact that many of these manufacturers that produce the smokes that we enjoy are family focused, family founded, family oriented, and family run. There are so many cigar manufacturers out there still that are a generational operation where one parent passes on their learnings to their children, either via them being fully immersed in the tobacco industry from day one, or later in life when they suddenly realize that, hey, dad had the right idea after all, I'm going to hop into that and dump whatever job I've been doing for the last 10 years. And while family-oriented cigar stories date as far back as, for instance, the Upman brothers in the 1800s and their advent of the cigar box, they're more recent family-focused stories that are just as fascinating, if not more fascinating, with one of those being the cigar that is in my hand at this exact moment. This is the Robusto size of the Lineage by Alec Bradley. It falls within the family blend line of cigars that the cigar manufacturer has made for quite a few years now, and is a little bit of a mystery to many of us to this day. While its 52 ring gauge and 5.25-inch length barrel is very much, well, obvious, as well as its pigtail cap on one end, the ingredients are the biggest question mark because, well, the wrapper is just classified as something from the Trojes region of Honduras, so we don't really know what strain it is. The binder, they just say, is Nicaraguan, and the filler is a combo of Honduran and Nicaraguan tobacco. So yeah, I've poked around online and nobody really knows what strains are in this smoke, which kind of is fun because, well, you're kind of smoking blind. Now, what is known about this cigar is that it has a 90-point rating on average, so it's very well reviewed, and that it's also ranked as a medium strength, medium bodied cigar, and that it also has been dedicated to Alan Rubin, the founder of Alec Bradley's two sons, Alec and Bradley Rubin. As the story goes, Alan Rubin wanted to make a blend for his boys for when they came of age, cigar smoking age, that is. And so, while being that, premium long filler cigars need to be aged themselves, he started the process well before they were old enough to smoke, so that by the time they were of age and able to join pop for a smoke outside, it was ready. And that is what this is. This is their cigar. It is the homage to the offspring, if you will. And it is a delicious, medium strength, medium bodied cigar. And I'm going to share it with you right now. So let's get to it, shall we? Much like its list of ingredients or lack of listed ingredients, the aromatics of the cigar are a little bit indistinct. It's pleasant, it's sweet, it's cedary, it's spiced. It's got a little bit of that, a little nutmeg, but nothing really prominent in that area of unlit impressions. The wrapper has got a faint woodiness to it, and it's got a little grassy. If it's almost not all the way, Connecticut shade grown grassy or Cuban cigar grassy, but yeah, it's got a little hint of tartness to it as well. But the foot is definitely the star of the show when it comes to unlit impressions, because the more you sniff on it, the sweeter it gets. This is one of those cigars that has that dried apricot taste, where it's not raisins, it's not figs, it's none of that, not even craisins or anything. It's apricot, dried apricot. I like dried apricot. I don't know about you. It's pretty good, especially on a little bit of granola snipped up. And speaking of granola, it does have that kind of sweet maple granola taste to it from an unlit pull perspective. Toasty! Definitely a little bit of a spicy start. Not pepper spice, sun-grown tobacco spice. Got some pretty strong, leathery, tough initial impressions. The first third of the cigar begins to develop a granola-like taste that is pretty appropriate considering the cold draws were, well, very maple sugar granola-ish. Tasty. A little drier at first, but as the cigar heats up, it gets sweeter as it goes. It makes me think of grape nuts almost. Maybe not granola, but grape nut cereal. It kind of makes me think of my grandma a little bit. It's kind of weird. There's also kind of like a papery, not taste, but texture to it. It's hard to put your finger on, but it makes you feel, your palate feel a little bit like you took a piece of dried paper, put it in your mouth and place your tongue upon it, clamp down, and then open your mouth back up again. It dries it out just a bit, kind of like that. Not unpleasant, and with the grape nut granola taste, it provides for an interesting introductory profile. Secondary notes are a bit leathery, not strong leather, but more of a milder leather, and a milkiness that makes me think of almond milk. It's a little nutty, but not super nutty, and it's very creamy and kind of coats the back part of your palate. Something else worth noting on the cigar is its construction. There is a fantastic spring to this smoke. It just bounces in your hand when you squeeze it a little bit. And there aren't any soft spots on any of the cigars that I've smoked thus far in this line. And it just builds an ash in very nice fashion. A little flake here and there on occasion, but for the most part, I mean, that's a good looking ash in my opinion. Hey man, that's a pretty nice looking ash, don't you think? Mm-hmm. Something else you may encounter with this blend is that it starts off with a bit of a tight draw. I've noticed that on each stick that I've had. It's not to the point where it's plugged, but you got to kind of work it a little bit to get it going. But once you do get it going, you're set. The transition from the first third to the second third right now is got a really nice draw to it. Just the right amount of resistance and all around just pretty clean pull and whew, really clean ash, which I guess I should probably tap off come to think of it. Boop, boop, boop. Whoa, didn't want to come off, did she? Get through the first third and into the second. And those apricot tastes start to come out a little bit. It's a sweet, chewy flavor that has a little tartness behind it, not much, and it's still a dried fruit flavor. It's not super juicy. And there's a little bit more of a Christmas note to the cigar, just a little bit of nutmegginess. And with the sweetness that the cigar profile provides, you are left with a really nice aftertaste, along with, at this point, where I'm about to remove the lower band, there are two on the cigar, you get a little bit of farmhouse funk. Band number one. When I said farmhouse funk a moment ago, I didn't mean super manure or anything like that. It's just kind of a earthy, outdoorsy taste to the cigar that goes beyond light leather notes. It's not animal hide either, though. It's very natural tasting and clean. Still medium in every regard except for strength. That's on the lower end of medium. Something else is that the smoke production increases. Each subsequent pull levels up the smoke production. So be forewarned that as you go, you may get a cigar that gets a little hot on you or that creates too much of a charry flavor because you're just pulling through so much smoke and the cherry itself is heating up on you. So keep that in mind. Well, that didn't take very long at all now, did it? Time for band number two. My goodness, who's responsible for gluing this? Did you use the whole stick? Oh, there we go. Hopefully the wrapper's not damaged. Ooh, little bit of a scuff, but nothing too serious. Success. Man, that was a tough one. The final third of the cigar kind of brings you full circle and back to where it began, with lighter, leathery notes and a distinct dryness, as well as a paper-like sensation. But it's not just the paper sensation that you're getting with this cigar at this point. You're also getting almost like a cardboard-like flavor. At least I am. I got it in the other cigars too. It's not the most unpleasant cigar flavor, but it's not really my thing either. It just kind of tastes the way freshly shredded cardboard smells. Luckily, those nutmeg notes do shine through on top of all of that and kind of overwhelm it a bit, but it does kind of linger. This is another one of those cigars that I strongly suggest you pair with a little bit of a sweeter drink. If you get something too dry, like a Pinot Grigio or something like that to go with it, or even like, did I say a gin and tonic, you may find your palate just dries out a bit too much. Did you hear that? A freaking great blue heron. The size of that bastard. Damn! Sucker's huge. It's one of those cigars that I struggle to get too deep into parting puffs on. It's got some salinity to it, a little saltiness. Um, but outside of that and a little uptick in strength, there isn't really much of a pleasant transition to be had, really. It just kind of gets all mixed up. That's okay. There are a lot of cigars that do this. Luckily, these unpleasant notes that I have detected on each stick that I've smoked are only really present right when you get to the point where parting puffs is about to begin. All the way up until that point, it's really just a solid, middle of the road, medium cigar. Retrohales have a little bit more spice on them than you would expect, but you don't have to retrohale everything. And the aromatics of the smoke itself are pretty damn good. Construction is a solid smoke as well, outside of ash dropping on occasion. They don't need touch-ups. They burn evenly. Waviness is really not even a thing for the most part on them, and the ash is solid. Like the first ash from the first third is still in the ashtray, and I keep poking it and it's just holding up great. I could probably stack my cigar on top of it if I wanted to. And the cigar burns cool. It doesn't burn hot on you at all. It's also just a good looking smoke. I like pigtail capped cigars. They just are kind of fun and kind of old school looking to me. So altogether, this cigar does deliver. And it delivers for those who are in the mood for something medium, a solid medium with nothing too offensive to it or too much intense in one direction or another. The flavor profiles just transition, but they do it fluidly and it stays even for the most part up until now, of course. It's not the most mind-blowing cigar, I can admit, for me especially, but neither is it something that's going to get below our 4.0 threshold, which is what this cigar gets. It's a solid 4.0 out of 5-star stick. I would recommend this cigar to a lot of people because it is so approachable by, well, so many people. So whether you are a fan of milder cigars or medium sun-grown cigars, it kind of caters to both parties. And it really does make for an enjoyable EDC experience, especially for that modest price point. Cheers.